So the man in the back, really why I wanted to start this podcast is because of what happened with my last relapse with kratom.
Okay.
You know, I had 7 years of sobriety, and then I was going through the gas station at the Sinclair, and I was getting every Saturday I go there and get a 5-hour energy. And the dude's like, "Hey bro, we got these new energy drinks in," and I was like, he shows it to me. He's like, "They're natural, they're less caffeine," and he gives it to me for free along with my 5-hour. He's like, "Try it, bro." And I know the dude because I buy 5-hour energies from him.
Gives it to you for free. That's your first red flag.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if he knew, bro, because so I drank it, and reading the bottle, it said you were only supposed to drink half of it. I didn't know. I just grabbed it as I'm driving out of the drive-thru and drank. Just nasty, bro. Like, and so anyway, half hour later, I felt like I was being hugged by God. It literally felt like I took 2 Percocet 10s. And then I went home that night and I told Autumn, I was like, "Man, like I drank a drink that was not good for me, And she's like, "Really?" But then so the next day I started justifying. I was like, "Dude, it's just from and I knew what kratom was, bro, like because we help people. So like I knew that it was not going to be good. Like I knew it was an opiate. Yeah. But then I justified. I was like, I could do one of these a day,
Yeah.
Long story short, within 2 weeks I was doing 10 a day.
Damn.
So
it's a lot.
Yeah. $10 a piece, $100 habit a day out of the gas station. I mean, so my first time I went to detox was in April. So I relapsed in March. Was the beginning of March, the first time I ever drank it. And then relapsed in April went to detox in April. And then from there, you want to cut? Do we need to stop?
No, you're good. You're good. I was checking some gains.
All right. And basically in and out of detox from April to September. I had to go to detox for it, kept relapsing on it. I'd never had anything so accessible, but where the man in the back has really come from is that experience. And then I had to go to rehab. I went to rehab and then, basically I don't want to say I got kicked out of SOAR, but I lost my job here, had to go into the Davis school district and let them know that I needed to go to rehab, and they were cool. Like they supported me. But as I've been getting sober and through this whole experience, I've realized I've just never been able to deal with this narrative in my head. There's always this constant narrative of overly competitive feelings, resentment, fear, constantly feel threatened, and just all those thoughts that cause you to suffer if you attach to them.
Yeah.
And so what the man in the back is backing up and watching that voice. And I've realized I'm not that voice. And when I become the observer of that voice, that's when I step into the man in the back. I'm now observing it. And I've realized when I'm the man in the back, the observer of that narrative, I'm actually really confident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, I'm not this insecure. I'm actually confident. I'm not that voice, and I can observe it. And so that's what I'm interested. That's where this man in the back thing has come from. This podcast. I'm interested in talking to people about how to get present and how to enjoy life. How tired I am of saying I'll be happy when. Why can't I just be happy now?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wake up to that truth. I don't need to be all things to everybody. I don't need to try. So just enjoy life.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of conversations I'm interested in having.
Yeah. That's good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I think from what you're saying, it's that's the weird thing about addiction is if you can overcome it, I feel like it kind of becomes a blessing in your life, because it seems like the concepts that you're explaining right now remind me of hard meditation, which is kind of odd coming from people like us that have struggled with substance abuse, which is pretty much the opposite of being present. It really is. But it gives you an opportunity to analyze your sickness, which I think everybody has innately as humans, but we just manifest our way of working around it in different ways. And addiction is kind of like a really thick version of avoidance, you know?
Yeah, bro.
And so,
I mean, I've had it my whole life where I just, you know, I realize if I look back and just the overthinking, you know, the constantly, I mean, man, there's days where I really set the intention of like, no, I'm not going to think a bunch today. And I observe it, and I really set the attention. I work with God on it. You know, in my prayers in the morning, it's like, you know what? I don't want to think. I don't want to be thinking all day long. And so then when I get up off my prayer and I step into life and start walking, and I'm setting that intention to be the man on those days when I am the man in the back, the observer, dude, life is good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then you relapse back into those old thoughts, right? Like I'll just like I attach to something, and my ego, and I want to. Sometimes I want to talk shit.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, you know, I'm tired of it. I'm tired, and I know that's why you know, I've helped a lot of people get sober.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work with that.
I've done a lot of work with it, and then I'll watch people, and they'll end up being happier than me. I'm like, bro, you seem like you're, and I'm still just not.
Yeah, well, I think that's like that's a fuel to your fire that your definition of life that you've created around helping each other,
right?
Helping people with addiction isn't fulfilled yet. You know,
you've
got a constant upkeep fueling your experience to broaden it and give it to more people.
That's a cool way to look at it, bro. Like, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm thankful for this last relapse and as much damage as I've done. I think it's going to be good because, I mean, just like you, like, that's why, like me, I latched onto you early because you've had the experience with kratom.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think it's I could be wrong. But I think it's the next thing. I mean, the way it's in gas stations now, you know what I'm saying? And so
selling it to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Probably
18-year-old kids taking Percocets. Like, you know, like it's not, you know, you don't realize. And it's easy to justify because it's in a beautiful little bottle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
All the marketing around it.
Yeah.
Know? Especially that it's kind of just disguised in this whole research chemical, even though it's a natural compound.
Right.
Which makes it more appealing to drug nerds is because, like, oh, it's natural. But there's this whole push on legal drugs happening in gas stations right now. I mean, like kids that are 16 can walk in and get a mushroom gummy. Yeah. And that shit has synthetic DMT in it. Like, no joke. Yeah, I have a buddy that runs a distribution center for all these gas stations. I used to buy kratom from him. Right. He's got a warehouse full of drugs that are legal. You know, and the thing is that the FDA or the fucking whatever it is that controls that shit, they can't keep up with it because they're compounds. There's thousands upon thousands of them, and all they have to do is just chemically alter it one little notch, and it's legal again. And they can never keep up with that shit. And it wasn't like that when we were kids. You know, you'd have to go to the skate park and find a bag of swag, and it took you 3 days to get it. Yeah. You know, nowadays these kids don't even do that. They can buy weed at the gas station, you know.
Yeah, they can.
So yeah, I think that and kratom is highly addictive. I think that it will become more and more of a problem over the years. And granted, I mean, it had its place for me in like a medical recovery, which kept me off of Oxycontin, which I had a prior major addiction to. So like, that's the thing, is all of it's kind of relevant to your experience, but the basis of addiction is always going to be there, you know.
Right.
And it's definitely a dangerous road that we've gone down with having these things that accessible.
Yeah, bro. Like, I think, well, how old are you? 29?
33 almost.
Was caffeine big when I was a kid? There was no such things as like the big ass energy drinks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I look at now, like, these kids just getting wrapped up hard in caffeine.
Yeah.
You know, like, which is different. I mean, you don't think it's like addictive thinking, but like you see 7th graders out skateboarding and they're linked up to a big ass energy drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start thinking, I can't skateboard. I need to get an energy drink before I go skateboarding. You know what I'm saying?
Right there.
And it's little addictive thinking like
right
that.
There. Yeah, that's the slippery slope too of everything, of addiction and everything, is because people don't realize that, especially when you're that young and your mind is that malleable.
Right.
You create these escape mechanisms that are socially acceptable at the time, but you don't realize till down the road, depending on how far you push it, what you're training your brain to do, and that you're training your brain away from being able to handle moments in life where you want more energy, or you want more clarity, or you want to enhance your experience.
Right.
You know, for me, it was harmless at first, like smoking weed and stuff was like fucking awesome. You know, I fucking smoke joints, walk around, listen to Jimi Hendrix, fucking be stoked on life, think we were it, you know?
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize is that was like, it was training my brain to not be able to, and it didn't start as not being able to deal with hard situations. It started as like, you know, enhancement.
Right.
But through years of doing that, things just become less fun unless you're high, and that's the trap that you fall into, and it's really hard to get out of. Then you start getting with opiates and stuff, things that are actually highly physically addicting. Right. Dude, and that's where all your statistics of whatever % of people are never going to get out of it, and that's what you're here trying to bring awareness to and help people with. Like, there's people that come through here that are hit, man. Yeah, they're hit.
Right.
And I'm one of them. You know, I'm still hit. You know, I spent better of 15 years using substances, and I'm pretty damn young.
Right.
You know, and I'm now seeing the effect that it's had on everything in my life, relationships, my ability to be creative, and all of these things, you know. Some I don't know.
Do you think, bro, like, so how long you been sober now?
Fucking almost 6 months.
Yeah, six months. So you're like, it's like a form of waking up, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost easy to just get the substance out of your system. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you pull it out, and then you're just kind of in life, in the, you know, trying to figure out, you know, and the character defects that happen from those years of substance abuse. Like, I just look at because I was out for 6 months dealing with it, and then I'm, you know, now I'm 4 months, and I just look like all those old behaviors, the little lies that I told, the manipulations, the, you know, needing to put eye drops in everywhere I go, like sneaking away to go to the gas station, you know, like all those little things, they add up in that 6 month period. And then now, okay, I pull it out of my system, and you just don't go back to normal. No. Like the insecurity that, like, and I keep that in my pocket, because like when I get a craving, or even like the thought to go get it, like, I'm like, I don't want to go back to like having to fight like this and deal with this head prison of like the fears and all this. That during that 7 years I was relatively quiet. Yeah.
See, and you're talking about a relapse on top of how many years sober?
Yeah. Seven
fucking years you were sober.
Right.
And you're talking about a relapse within 2-4 months, bringing you right back down to just just watering those insecurities and all that shit. You know? It doesn't ever go away.
Yeah. And that's such a deep suffering, you know, and this is something I've always thought about. Like, do you think that people can truly wake up, you know, what we're talking about, to the man in the back, to where they start observing, they're able to enjoy life, and they realize they don't want to be in their head anymore. And if they're in their head too much, they suffer. Do you think that in order for people to capture that type of awakening, they got to suffer deeply first?
Yeah. I think everybody does too, whether they realize it or not, you know. And that's the thing that I like to think is the blessing in addiction, is because you create such a high level of suffering that you can actually notice that it's affecting you, versus maybe somebody that's addicted to the idea of money, and they'll literally spend their whole life and die, never realizing the ghost they were chasing in their own happiness, you know. That, like, I think that suffering is necessary, and it has been necessary for anybody that's in recovery. And I think that's what people in recovery need to focus on and not get down on themselves about. They need to turn it around and use it as fuel, as a feeling they can easily recognize, and attach that feeling accurately to their past behaviors. And once you can identify that, you can work on moving past those past behaviors. You know?
And it's like the idea of, you know, when you're first getting sober, like, it's so hard, you know, and there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of people who, like, have taken it really far, where they're borderline homeless, and it's they're in that hole and they don't think they can get out. But if you can, I've never seen somebody in recovery, when they really get into recovery, you know, they look for God, they're seeking after spiritual experiences, they're chasing after nostalgia, that, you know, where they're trying to still get high, but through spiritual ways, you know. But when they do that, and they have the mindset like, all right, this is so hard, but I know that if I keep just on this path one day at a time, that, like, I'm going to become very useful out in the world to help others. You know what I mean? And then, man, that flip, you know, because I honestly, I mean, this is my belief, bro, is I believe that, like, in the premortal existence, like, I believe in this premortal, like, that we sat in a circle meeting with God. You know, we were just sitting there, and he's like, all right, you guys you're going to be a substance abuser. And you're going to go down and struggle with this disease. And then we come in here, a veil, we don't remember anything. We have our free agency. We step into substance abuse. And then, like, we still have the agency, like, you know, if we work the recovery process, the 12-step recovery process, and we find God, and we turn our will and life back over to God, that like, now we're on track to, you know, that's what the School of Addiction Recovery. Now we become coaches and teachers in the School of Addiction Recovery. We get a degree, like a kind of like, it's not a, you know, it has to be better than the sales degree at Weber State. You know, but no, it's not going to be recognized in this world as that. It's going to be recognized spiritually, and then you're going to have people hitting up your phone asking for help, because they're going to see the competency and the light radiating, because you went through the darkest tunnel of shit, you know, and you kept working that recovery process, and you shined up, you got brighter, and man, you know what I'm saying? And that's I mean, that's kind of where you're at. That's where I'm at. Like, I mean, I know that the only way I could stay sober and really find happiness in this life is to be involved with kids and adults and help them that struggle with substance abuse. You know what I'm saying? Where are you at with that?
Well, I mean, what you first said made me really think about like a karmic cycle. And that in the wheel of karma, there's a lot of different aspects that we may or may not realize that we're sent down here to experience.
Right.
And addiction is one of them. And I think that if you can identify, if you happen to be one of those people that suffers from addiction, if you can identify that is your sole focus of your karmic cycle to overcome,
Wow.
that you're not down here to, I don't know, whatever else that other people do with their lives.
Right.
But that you have identified your addiction as the constant battle that you are here to overcome, and that if you can overcome that, then you've won the karmic battle, and your ancestry can move on.
Yeah.
You know, when you die and you have kids and you can battle this out, because like, I mean, my parents weren't even addicts, you know?
Yeah.
So I can, like, I feel like it's something that has happened to me for a reason, and that I share the same sentiments with you, that through traveling through this process, I can help myself and the people around me, you know, and that I look at it the same way, that it is like it's a karmic cycle.
Yeah.
That we can't really identify why or where it came from, or if God decided this or that, but that we're here now, and that if we can overcome this, then we will further our karmic cycle instead of backtrack it.
Wow, bro.
So it's like having kids and having all this shit happen, you know. That's the reason that I feel like I became an addict, was solely because I didn't think my parents knew shit about it. And they didn't. They, like, frankly, they did not. Like, my mom's drank like twice in her life.
Right.
My dad is an addict, but he doesn't realize it because he's a pharmaceutical addict. You know, and he has very addictive tendencies. So I know where they came from as far as like my DNA, but I'm the one that has identified it now. And so I think that it's, if you can do that and people can realize that, and you see it all the time with people that come through here, you know, I don't have kids, but people that come through here and they get their kids back and they get their lives back, you know, based on all the work that you've put into this place, you know, over the fucking decade or so you've been doing this. Like, you see it happen, and the thing is that you're always going to have to maintain that, and it's a lifelong battle. But it doesn't have to be trudging through the mud all the time.
Yeah.
You know, if you can harness the energy behind recovery and channel it into creative things like you doing with SOAR and WAR and making this podcast and helping all these fucking people get their lives back together, then you'll find a purpose based out of your hellish experience of just discomfort and insecurity and all of that. You know? Yeah,
bro. Like, I look at and that's what happens. I mean, people do get their lives back. You know, I know a person, I can think of a few people that I wish they were alcoholics. And the reason I say that is because, like, they're suffering in this life.
Yeah.
But they can't see the truth about why they're suffering. They can't see the truth about their behavior because they're not out. Like, they need to drink. They need to participate in a substance, so it leads them to suffering so bad that they wake. You know, I hate to say they need to drink, but like, because they haven't suffered enough. Like, you know, drugs and alcohol lead you to suffering so bad to where you lose things.
Yeah.
And it forces you to say, dude, I gotta become a reader. I gotta find God. I gotta gain an understanding on how to think different. But then there's people who don't end up becoming alcoholics, but they are alcoholics in the way they think, with their thinking errors, and they're walking through this life basically asleep. They're never, you know, chasing after the man in the back, where they can observe and they can get rid of that ego, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
And drugs and alcohol have led me on that search, and I can be thankful for that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I find super peculiar about addiction, is that it offers a reason to be happier. Some people just walk. Yeah. And they just walk, you know? Yeah. But like, if you never lose anything, you won't know the true value of what you have. Yeah. For real.
Yeah.
And that's
bro.
why, I mean, and we're in the positions we're in where it's almost like we have to look at it as a blessing, because otherwise you're just going to be a slave to it forever.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's a blessing. This last relapse I have to look at as a blessing. It's brought me closer to God. I realize there's just a certain way that I gotta live. It's also led me to knowing that I can't take a substance.
Yeah.
Before this relapse, it was like, maybe I could smoke weed.
Yeah.
Maybe I could, you know what I mean? It was kind of like maybe I hadn't done a full step one of where I'm like admitting that I'm powerless.
Yeah.
But this one, bro, the way that I couldn't stop, you know, and with it being just so accessible. So like, say I did go smoke weed or took a substance, like I'd be so worried about my mood dipping the following day from taking that substance that it would lead me to saying I need to go get kratom, and I can go right to the Sinclair and get it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just I don't want to put my family I put my family at risk. You know what I'm saying? When I take substances, it just is. I can't. I don't know. So that's been a good one. Like when it comes in, because those cravings. I mean, with that drug being on the shelves of the gas station, and it's so accessible for me. I mean, I used to have to hop around to doctors and do the weird drug dealer thing. Yeah,
did that too.
And
for sure.
But now with it being so accessible like that. Like I just can't. I'm not interested in taking anything nowadays other than just having God as my drug.
Yeah.
You know,
taking your magnesium and your eat some good food and get some exercise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's high time for something like this podcast to happen. And I think maybe what you've just been through in the last 6 months was a catalyst to something further with your helping people, you know, because you've established this facility.
Right.
You've established something that's running on its own, with or without you.
Right.
May that hit your ego one way or another, which I'm sure it does.
Right.
But I think that you need to look at the silver lining of that and look at what you're trying to do now, especially with this podcast and how many more people it can reach, people that haven't decided to go to treatment or haven't hit rock bottom. You know, like this could reach a lot more people that haven't yet been willing to give it up or are thinking about going down that road or have tried kratom and been straight confused about it and like, you know, get in that cycle of like, oh, well, it's fine. It's a natural whatever. Like I've got a lot of friends that still do kratom, you know, and like they didn't hit it as hard as I did, but they talk to me as though they're not addicted to it.
Right.
And I've had 2 friends that have downplayed the shit out of it when I've told them like that I'm fucked because of it. Like I'm telling you, I'm like suicidal. I'm losing my mind. Yeah. And they're like, well, buy it from this website. It's cheaper. Yeah. Every other excuse that you could make around it, but they don't realize like actually how addicting it is, you know? And I mean, there's tons of substances we could talk about out there, but both me and you have struggled hard with kratom. I think that it's a good hot topic for a lot of young people that are getting into drugs, basically.
I agree, bro, because that was one of the things I justified when I first got into it, because it's like I've done, you know, wrapped up in Oxy when it was Oxycontin and the Roxys and then, you know, methadone, like all these hard drugs. And so when I was doing kratom just out of the gas station, I was just like, it's just kratom.
Oh, I'm good.
This isn't
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
like
good.
Doesn't necessarily. I was like, I'm functioning.
Oh,
like
the withdrawals ain't shit compared to
constantly justifying it.
Yeah.
Until I never had been so, I don't want to say I was suicidal to the point where like I was going to really do it. Yeah. But like, bro, like that was a theme in my head. I got really sad and depressed when
it was in mine too.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know what it is about that substance. But
I think that it's sneaky. It's because it's very sneaky, and I think that it's like the thing is that you'll create all these narratives in your head around it that, oh, the withdrawals ain't nothing. I could be off this in 3 days. Like when I was kicking subs, it took 2 months.
Right.
You know, you come up with these narratives. But the thing is while you're using that substance, you're still training your brain the same way.
Yeah.
And you're still gonna experience the darkness of not being present. And it's still gonna take away your time and your money and your ability to be yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like having to fucking take a bottle of something every social interaction, every time you got to have energy to do a homework assignment or a work assignment, you know, you're not building yourself at all. You're just building an addiction. And that, like, it might take longer for you to realize that based on a drug that isn't completely whooping your ass in the morning when you wake up. But that's why it's so fucked up.
Wow.
And that's why it's so sneaky, is because you become so dependent on it, but you think that you're not, you know?
Bro, that described it perfectly. Like I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I was a vice principal I was at Northridge at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just the struggle, everything I felt like I had to do, go get at the gas station. I got to go run to the gas station, anything.
Yeah.
No, you know,
Yep.
I'm not learning anything, you know, I'm not learning. And that's a big one for me, because like I want to enhance. Like there's people who want to enhance, or they want to, block feelings, right? I want to enhance. I want to go talk to people. I want to take it and then have it kick in at the right moment when I'm going to have this conversation. You know You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly.
And so you're chasing that all day long. You know, I don't want to call this person back. I'll call him back. I'll go get another bottle. Yeah. Drink it. It'll start kicking in. Then I'll call this person
I'll be
back.
enthused. Then I'll have all the good shit to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, dude, that's the almost the single-edged sword of it, is that you're enhancing these experiences that to you become meaningful. They do. But then when you're realizing, and you get to a point where you realize that these things that they're fucking you up.
Yeah.
They're fucking ruining your wallet. They're ruining your ability to do the things that you care about without them. But you've created these divine, energetic experiences of bliss and energy flowing through you, but it's not genuine. And so then you go back to those experiences and you try to have them without it. And I think that's why it makes you so depressed, is because you've created like a connection with these things that mean a lot to you, you know? Like all of the things that you do in your public life and your private life, they do mean a lot to you, with or without the kratom. But without the kratom or whatever substance it is, it becomes 10x depressing, because it's not there when you're doing it without the substance. Bro. You know.
What do you think about this? So like, it's almost like I've been doing this thing where it's like, dude, I'll just use God as my drug, you know? Because really, okay, say I'm walking into a group of people, and I want to feel, most of the time I'm chasing after, I want every moment to be spiritual and just charitable, and that's not realistic. I mean, you can't, that's not sobriety. No. But like, what I can do is I can get centered with God, have a prayer, and walk into a situation, a social interaction, with being the man in the back who is present, meek, and low key, and chill, and smiling, you know, and friendly and kind. And now I'm going in with God as my drug, and I can feel spiritual. And you know what I'm saying? You're really searching after that gratitude in those moments, and then that becomes real. I mean, when it doesn't become real in that moment is when I get trapped in my head, and time starts to slow down. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, and then there's some dread now, and there's some worry, and where when I could just back up, get centered, and get back with God as the man in the back. Because I feel like the man, when I'm the man in the back who's present, like the ego voice quiets, and now I can hear God's still small voice. Like I'm here. I feel like God is in the present moment. He's not in the loud, mad thoughts, the resentment, you know?
Yeah.
And so
in the same way, he's not in the overly enthused, enhanced moments.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about Christ, like Christ was, dude, he walked around. He was never mad. I mean, you could study Christ and see what type of character he carried around.
Yeah.
He was never fearful. He wasn't mad at people. He forgave everybody. He was slow. He took naps.
Yeah.
You know, he took a nap on the boat when there was a big storm. He was just chill. He went and took walks and meditated and talked to his Father in heaven. You know what I'm saying? And I got this picture of Christ in my house. It's sick, but he's chilling. He's laying back on a rock, and he's got his staff, and he's just looking up in the sky. And I just that's the type of, he was quiet and lowly, you know? And
I think it's a model for human experience.
Yeah.
It is. It's a model for what it means to be the man in the back, you know?
Yeah.
Like what you've described it with that, you know? And it's like something based on hundreds and thousands and millions and billions of humans' experiences that everybody can connect on.
Yeah.
Because it's there within everybody. In different walks of life and different practices to lead you to that experience, you know, whether it be meditation or religion or, you know, like skateboarding, and whatever it is for you,
social interactions. Yeah. And if you look at anybody else who had a beautiful impact on the world, like, so if you look at the Buddha, same type of character, any of those gurus that I've studied, you know, Eckhart Tolle, like look at the life he promotes. It's all the same, man in the back, low key. I like the word meek. Yeah. Like lowly, forgiving, kind of
no ego, nothing to prove.
Yeah, nothing to prove.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where I'm
nothing to prove, everything to give, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm trying to head. And that's where, if we wrap this thing up right here, it would be like, that's where I want this to go.
Yeah.
I want to transform through this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm far from being the man in the back full time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I want to talk to interesting people like you and me, and have these discussions about how to achieve, I guess, joy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even joy, even when life sucks.
Yeah.
Because we can't escape the hard moments of life. Like no matter, I don't care how spiritual, like, but what you can is not identify with the fear.
Yeah.
I think I can do that. Like,
yeah.
Everyone could learn to not identify with that fear and let go and let God, you know?
Yeah, straight up.
Whatever your higher power is, you know?